Our task for this particular session is really to give you a window into what's happening at the state level and how are states working to promote and advance apprenticeship. And we have a really great panel here. The complexity about apprenticeship is that there are two different systems around apprenticeship in this country. There are the so-called state apprenticeship states, and then there are the federal apprenticeship states. But in the end, what it really all means is that we have mechanisms for doing quality control around apprenticeships and making sure that we are providing support and guidance and advice to those who are interested in promoting and advancing the apprenticeship cause. So I'm gonna just ask each panelist to just quickly introduce themselves and their title. So can we just go from left to right here? Yeah.
Kyle Maguire, Delaware Registered Apprenticeship.
Good morning. My name is Bernard Treml. I'm the Regional Apprenticeship Director for Region 1.
Morning, Robert Asaro-Angelo, Commissioner of Labor and Workforce Development for New Jersey.
Hi, I'm Jim Foti, Regional Director for the Office of Apprenticeship, Philadelphia.
Hi, I'm Eric Ramsay. I'm the Pennsylvania Director of Apprenticeship and Training.
And Eric, I'm actually going to ask you to get us started with sort of our first question, and we just wanted to hear from each of the states kind of what's new, what's going on in Pennsylvania around apprenticeship that we should hear about. About 2 minutes per state would be great. Eric?
So I would say the newest thing that's out within the past, at the end of the year going now, we just put out our PA Smart grants. In Pennsylvania, there was an effort to really bring together and bridge the gap between workforce development, education, community and economic development. Through the PA Smart Grant, there was $30 million that was put out to fund some of these initiatives. Registered Apprenticeship got $7 million of those dollars. Recently, we had a grant offering that was out at the end of the year. We are going to be announcing our awards fairly soon, so that's
my organization, JEVS, is an applicant, so we're very interested in that result. Just anytime you can get to it, thank you.
Soon. One of those that we want to highlight in that group, we had 3 buckets of apprenticeship offerings. One was for they all actually, just to take a step back, they all included somewhat a diversity component to it. We really wanted to diversify some of the occupations that we were funding. But one of those, the buckets that we did put an offering out for was the Apprenticeship Ambassador Network. And to develop, into what we were looking to do and double the number of apprentices, things of that nature, we said we have to empower people with the knowledge to build apprenticeship programs. We can't have, keep all that information to ourselves. We really need to spread the word and help develop the skills it takes to develop apprenticeship programs amongst our state. As a state agency, to try and grow and build capacity within is very daunting at the state level. Our office is small. We started off with just me when it started 4 years ago. Today we have about eight folks involved in that process. But helping people develop, we said, is the way to scale apprenticeship and putting them out locally and regionally. We have an idea of what we want to do at the state level, but we really don't know the details of what you want to do within your region. So that would, without taking up too much time, that's one of our main things that we have going on in Pennsylvania.
So let's hear from New Jersey. I hope Zakiya didn't step on a major announcement here, but the degree apprenticeship sounds really interesting.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. What's new in New Jersey on apprenticeship is that we have opened an Office of Apprenticeship for the first time ever at the Department of Labor, run by Nick Toth, who's over there, who put his hand up before. And I think that's really led to much of our success. To have that extra as like a force multiplier for the U.S. Department of Labor, because I'm very proud to be a federal state. Quite frankly, it takes a lot of burden off of us and not having a state apprenticeship council. We've had great partnership with Bernie when he's in the state and Jim and everybody else at that office. We've increased apprenticeships in New Jersey, apprenticeship programs in a little over 2 years by 64%. I keep asking Nick, are you sure that's right? And it is right. It's verified by U.S. DOL data. And again, when I say that, that means that U.S. DOL has registered 64% more programs in this short 2 years, which is an amazing testament to their staff's hard work. and I presume that the numbers of apprentices are going to catch up to that at some point. So we're now over 1,000 programs in New Jersey. And I think a lot of it has to do with, one, just the general talk about apprenticeship in general. Clearly having some money helps, to help seed that. And I think the last speaker talked about really our goal isn't to fund apprenticeships in perpetuity, is to have that, help them with that startup cost, to get them up and running, to sort of show them the way, because the return on investment is going to be apparent very quickly for most of the businesses, and we're seeing that already. We've been talking about equity and diversity. Our programs that are funded through us have double the amount of women in them, double the amount of African Americans, double the amount of Latinos than apprenticeships as a whole. I think it's because of the way we're writing the grants. And also, I think another big push on that has been incentivizing demand for apprenticeship. In New Jersey, on the construction side, we mandated last year that anybody doing public construction work in New Jersey has to be participating in a USDOL registered apprenticeship program. Spending public dollars is a privilege, not a right. My goal is that by the time the Murphy administration is done, that kind of, maybe not a mandate, but that kind of heavy incentive on state dollars and public dollars will be going into our IT spending, into healthcare spending, and anywhere else we can in government to help seed that demand for apprenticeship.
And our high job growth region to the south, Delaware, tell us a little bit about what's going on in apprenticeship there.
Yep. So in the past 4 years, Delaware has made many changes and improvements to expand apprenticeship. Most importantly was getting out the word for apprenticeship. That included new marketing material. We went to as many job fairs, resource fairs, conferences as we could to get the word out. As we expanded into occupations outside of traditional construction apprenticeships, we found very quickly that the industry associations were very important. That included curriculum development, building the framework for on-the-job training component, and convening the employers. Since Delaware is so small, there hasn't been an extreme necessity for intermediaries. We have a lot of single employer programs ranging from 1 employee all the way up to hundreds of employees. Recently, we partnered with Delaware Restaurant Association to create the Cook Apprenticeship Program. We piloted that program starting last summer. From that pilot, we learned that the apprentices were moving at a lot faster pace than we anticipated. So we're thinking about dropping that from a 2-year program to a 1-year program. We're hoping that the short time frame will be more enticing for the employers, that they get a trained workforce in a short time period, and more enticing for the apprentice, that they're not spending that much time, in school. They can get back to work. In Delaware, most of the related instruction is taught through the VOTEX adult ed divisions, but recently Delaware Technical Community College partnered with Appoquinnock School District. They created a machinery operator program. The curriculum is intended to align with what is currently being taught at the registered apprentice post-secondary level. So we feel the alignment will allow students to graduate high school and really focus on the on-the-job training component. And also with that program, the graduates will receive 6 college credits, so they're already on their way. Our big focus right now in the next year or two will be in IT and healthcare. So we'll be talking to the industry about that too.
Excellent. Thanks, Kyle. So Bob, I hope you're pleased to hear all the evangelism that's going on from our public sector around apprenticeship and a really critical role there. I actually want to pick up on, I think, one of Bob's last comments, which is really around this sort of group apprenticeship model. And Kyle, you actually spoke to that around the restaurant work that you talked about. What are you all seeing in terms of group apprenticeship? Who's leading the charge on that? What's working well? Where are there some challenges? And maybe, Eric, you could get us started.
From our perspective in Pennsylvania, group sponsorship is really what we're promoting. Whether it's taking on sponsorship, it's really talking about what roles in your region or locality that you can have to develop an apprenticeship system. You may be a sponsor, you may be a convener, you may be a training provider, but playing a role in group sponsorship is really something that we are talking about and really focusing on. And it's diverse. The people and the groups that are part of it, Chamber of Commerce, high schools, CTCs, manufacturing associations, pretty much you name it, nonprofit organizations, you name it. Group sponsorship is really on the rise. And part of that that group sponsorship piece that we're talking about now too is pre-apprenticeship and building kind of that whole pipeline piece all at the kind of the same time. So it's not two separate things. So group sponsorship, and we say group sponsorship and pre-apprenticeship because if you have a pre-apprenticeship program, you want it those people going through that program, you want it to feed to multiple employers inside of that apprenticeship program. So more landing places for people in those programs is really important to us.
How about in New Jersey?
I think there's been some of our most successful programs. I think that, I come out of the building trades, and while I'm always preaching that apprenticeship is not just about building trades, the important thing is that model is so successful. It's been something that's been very hard to get to other industry sectors. When I was with the laborers union, we had 10,000 signatory contractors who were by day competing tooth and nail for every contract against each other, but they were all funding collaboratively the talent ecosystem that helped them be successful. Getting other industries to understand that has not been super easy. We have some great partners in New Jersey, two of whom are here, the Manufacturing Extension Program, which is an amalgam of different manufacturers in New Jersey, and they know that MEP is involved in workforce. We have the Employer Association of New Jersey, John Sarno over here, who started the second HR apprenticeship program in the country in New Jersey a couple years back, working with multiple employers who are taking the apprentices at different parts along their pathway. I think that's what we need. And we have one of our most successful apprenticeship grantees so far has been NJ Carr, which is a New Jersey coalition of auto retailers. I mean, these people hate each other. I mean, they are cutting prices every day, advertising against each other. We met with them when we first started, and they're like, Commissioner, we don't need any money, we just need your help. And because their modus operandi was going down the street and offering that tech $1 or quarter more to get them. They're one of our best partners because they're all over the state in every single town, essentially, working with our programs. They've been a very successful partner, but I think there is a lack of intermediaries who know how to do this kind of work. We talk about chambers and business associations, with all due respect to them. Most of them are just about, lobbying about tax incentives or trying to, whatever, against the minimum wage. Not many of them have the capacity to do this kind of training. So I think in the future, we're going to try to look at what we can do more as a department to help bring more intermediaries to the fore, do some training for other ones about how to do this kind of thing.
And Kyle, anything you want to share?
So I think Eric can correct me if I'm wrong, but Delaware has approximately 370 sponsors, which is about the same size as Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has about 16,000 apprentices. Delaware has about 1,600. So like I said, we don't use the intermediaries obviously as much, but as it comes to the non-traditional occupations, that's where it's going to be very important to really break down those barriers. I think a lot of non-traditional occupations see, government, they're worried about it, where the industry association can really break down some of those barriers and make the employers feel more comfortable.
I want to bring our federal representatives into the conversation here and maybe just ask you all to reflect on, obviously you're working closely with the states in the region here, but it'd be helpful to get your perspective on what are you seeing in other states? What are you hearing from your colleagues? How are states leading on this? Jim, you want to get started?
Hey, thanks, John. I thought this might have been debate format. I say I'm starting behind here, so I did want to acknowledge a few folks. I did want to acknowledge a few folks here, particularly Keith and Nathaniel and the Fed, and for all the work they've done to put this together. It's a great idea. Of course, my friend and colleague Bob Lehrman, who is always never disappoints, and he was talking about apprenticeship when no one else was talking about apprenticeship. So that's one thing we have in common. And of course, Ron Leonard, who should be up here because he knows a heck of a lot more about Pennsylvania than I do. But I've been learning, and it's been really fantastic to see. I also want to make special shout out to Eric, who's been here for the last. I want to give a round of applause for Eric for all the work he's done in Pennsylvania. And have done such amazing things, particularly with the chambers of commerce and the German chamber, and looking at business and industry associations to lead, as well as with JEVS and 1199C Training Fund, our labor partners. And also wanted to highlight the Navigator Apprenticeship Program, which is just amazing. I know Bob mentioned it earlier as well, training some of the business service agents and also business folks on how to set up apprenticeship programs. I'm really looking forward to taking that nationally. I think it's a fantastic idea. As far as some of the other states, I mean, there's, one of the interesting things is that historically, and still, most of our apprentices are, somehow affiliated with labor or joint programs. But the tremendous growth, even in the South, if you look at what South Carolina, Texas, some of the states where apprenticeship has been growing gangbusters, and a lot of these programs are independent because they see the need. There's a need for talent development. As was said earlier with the new jobs and the higher skill levels. And those things are really important. Business has always historically said, give us somebody that we can train and we'll take care of it. So integrating some of those professional skills and the soft skills that was mentioned earlier is always in vogue. So some of those things, I think, also, using more higher, post-secondary ed. Getting more college credit. I see a lot more of that, and I hope that we get more degree apprenticeship programs. I think it just makes a ton of sense. So we're looking at some of those kinds of things. But again, group programs, national programs, we just happen to be, in the national capital area. So we have more than our share of national programs. But even so, many of them are based here in Pennsylvania. So anyway, I'll let you go. Thanks.
Bernard, any thoughts?
Yes, I think, in my background, I was actually a state agency apprenticeship director in Rhode Island, and then went to the dock side and became a federal state apprenticeship agency director in New Jersey, and now I'm the regional director. So I'm probably the only one in the country that has been both an SAA and OA state director. But what I see in New Jersey especially, it's a partnership with the commissioner, with the Office of Apprenticeship. Even though we are the registration agency for apprenticeship, we expect we're not the only ones doing the job. In regards to intermediaries, I think, what's unique to Pennsylvania and New Jersey is NJMEP. They're registered, I believe, in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Boston. Those are actually intermediary sponsors. The German Chamber of Commerce is another intermediary sponsor, which is only registered, I believe, in 3 states, which is Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. So the role is there. An intermediary sponsor could be an employer association like we started out with John in HR. It could also be with a nonprofit. It could be with a community college. It could be actually with an actual high school or a CTE. One of the things I am noticing, and especially as a regional director, is making those connections. It's interesting that I was contacted by 3 major companies over the past couple of weeks: Citizens Bank, Wayfair, and Zurich. So they're looking to start programs, but doesn't mean those programs, once started in one state, cannot be implemented in other states. So that's one of the things that I'm seeing. It is, and again, what Bob said, and this is very important, that, and I'm very happy to see here that apprenticeship is employer-driven. So I'm very happy to see a lot of employers here today, because I think that's where the conversation needs to start.
So I think in the interest of time, I'm going to move to Q&A. So in fact, we have one to start here. Please, go ahead.
So can you comment just on, is there a way to regionalize apprenticeship? So for example, can an employer actually regionalize in all 3 states? Just as a curious comment.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to, as I mentioned earlier, that we are so happy to have the Fed leadership here. I'd say about 3 years ago, a group came together, with John, with Edison, a number of folks who were talking about the Philadelphia area, metropolitan area apprenticeship program. And it makes sense. This is a labor market economy here. Why not? Now, again, we have some issues sometimes between, registration here and there, but we have reciprocity, and we do our best to try to iron out some of those, some of those issues. But absolutely, and there are also national programs. So,
And just to kind of lead off of that too, we're all using for the most part the same information system, so everything's interchangeable. So if you have registered apprentices in one state, you can be able to track them in other states. So that that's very important to understand, that we're all using the same system.
So and I just want to thank you for that comment, because I think really it's been the ambition of this conference to provoke exactly those kinds of conversations. What can we be doing across the state lines? Yeah, another question here.
I'm going to follow the orders here and push the button. Hi, I'm Patty Moran. I'm from NJMEP. And the first thing I want to say is I'm really glad that in New Jersey, we also are with the Department of Higher Ed, and I know you're involved with education, and I think that's incredibly important. And this is more of a seed I want to plant, because I think it's really important that in looking down the road, there desperately needs to be what I call capacity building. And Rob, you used that word, capacity building, not just for intermediaries, but I think of something Joe said. The community colleges need to do prior learning assessments so they can get that credit for the things they have learned on the job. I think that's incredibly important. And also, any sort of, this is going to have an impact on that faculty and staff at the career and technical schools. The gentleman from Pennsylvania thought of him, as well as the community colleges in the 4 years. So I do think that capacity building is very important. So that's my seed.
Great. And I know all of you are working with higher educational institutions to try and drive some of those new perspectives and new ideas. Do you want to just comment briefly on sort of what you're seeing across in that work? Eric, you want to lead us off?
I mean, we have connections with, in some respect, and they go full spectrum of community colleges being the sponsor, some of them being the convener, some of them being just the training provider that goes, that's connected to group sponsors and other individual sponsors. We're seeing that. We are connecting with four-year institutions as well. Something that started out in the southeast corner with 1199C is the Early Childhood Education initiative that's going on. It's a statewide model. Another one of our ambassadors. They are connecting with multiple higher education institutions. So we're seeing more and more of it in PA. Getting, articulating credit for work experience is something that we're seeing as well. So we're seeing it trending in that direction.
Can we hear just a little bit more about the degreed apprenticeship approach in New Jersey? What does that look like?
Well, we had a program a few years back, or a while ago now, called NJ Place, New Jersey Pathways Leading to a College Education, and leading apprentices to college education. And basically, what Bob said before, where we had a bunch of union apprenticeship programs, do prior learning assessments, and have all these ways to get college credit, but they never bothered doing it because if you're becoming an electrician making 80 grand, what was the point? So now we just released a new grant program a couple weeks ago with Zakia at our side about basically giving credit for on-the-job learning. So that way their apprentices are getting the college credit while they're actually on the job, not having to go to a class after working on a construction site or at another job for 8 hours a day. So we're looking, and we had our technical assistance seminar yesterday and the week before. We have high interest, but it's sort of, and this is a real way to sort of institutionalize our partnership with higher ed, which has sort of been scattershot for a long time. It's definitely one of our biggest challenges is trying to, make that more standardized. Like I said, Zakia has been a great partner with us, and she's always out there. She's almost like another labor commissioner when she's meeting with these college presidents, because I hear it from them too. Then to have her at
Don't let our college presidents hear that. No, not at all.
to have her at our side and have their director of economic development and our education commissioner all talking from the same playbook, because we really believe it. It's almost sort of, I feel like they're probably sick of us a little bit, but it's been successful, and it doesn't matter because repetition works. And they're hearing the same thing from employers, their customers, that we're hearing. They want us working together to make it easier for them to deal with the government and to provide resources for them to help them shape their future workforce.
Jim, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in and pick up on what Patty was talking about, not only about prior, learning, but also about one of the trends that I've seen really nationwide, and that's competency-based programs. There's a whole boatload of them. Matter of fact, I think, if you asked me 5 years ago how many programs would be interested in competency-based programs, it was, a small percentage. Now it's the majority that come through. But the problem is that we don't have a lot of these competency frameworks. I know Bob was talking about them before. I did a lot of work on that when I was in DC. But these are the things, if you come to my office, the first thing I usually show you is, kind of a 1993 framework of, the auto mechanics from Germany, and looking at how everything is laid out, where you know what the curriculum is going to be, what the training is going to be, how to assess it. And, all that stuff is laid out, which we don't have quite that stuff yet. And then I also show them the Canadian Red Seal things which integrate these essential skills that we were talking about before. So there's a lot of things that we need to do from an apprenticeship model in order, to help make a science out of competency-based, learning and apprenticeships. But there's no mistake, it's happening.
Thanks so much. I'm looking at Nathaniel just for our timekeeping. What do we got? 5 more minutes? Okay, so great. Time. Oh, wow, lots of questions. I'll tell you what, I'm going to get a couple questions on the floor and then let the panel react to them. So please, go ahead.
Back in the, I think it was the early 90s, there was a lot of conversation in K-12 about trying to develop apprenticeship programs and the lack of ability of K-12 systems to provide the kind of competency-based models that would allow kids who graduate from high school to actually dovetail right into industry. And the lack of that pretty much killed the whole apprenticeship piece. And we're spending a lot of time talking about colleges here, but maybe can anybody talk about K-12 or the high school piece, the lack of ability of that system to adjust and things that might be done to respond to that?
So thanks for raising that. What else? Yes, here.
We actually are from a regular public high school in South Jersey. We have 40% economically disadvantaged, and I'm so glad that you asked that because I've been sitting here. You got to capture the kids before they go to community college. You're missing the kids who are already disenfranchised with, high school. They haven't done a good job, maybe, or there's no expectation from their parents to go to college. And we have a very robust career program. Actually, we have students at Davis, so I was glad to hear about the regional thing. I have students in Philadelphia because our program is based on what the kids want to go into for their career. And if you can capture them before they go off and spend money at community college and give them a direction, our students are keeping their internships and their co-ops, and they're continuing on to Rowan College of South Jersey and Rowan University, and we've approached them about giving them credit to support them in that process. And what we find is that businesses who build relationships with kids when they're 17, 18 years old, they want to help them. They'll work around their schooling and they'll do all that. So I 100% agree with you that it has to start younger. And certainly the community colleges have to be involved, but you better get your high schools. And the other thing is the apprenticeship programs talks about vocational schools. We're all vocational schools. That's the point of education. We're a regular high school, and a lot of that paperwork doesn't apply to us. So we do internships and co-ops, but we have a hard time with the 1972 paperwork because it does say vocational school. So if you could help us out in any way, because we're doing, it's so successful for the kids, and it's successful for the businesses.
Let's take one more comment on this topic, the sort of K-12 connectivity to younger people. Yes.
Hi, I'm Tim Lidke. I actually am a full-time professor with Temple University and here specifically to look at apprenticeships for actuaries. And actuaries actually already have a very broad professional organization that's very supportive for getting into the insurance industry. But there are a lot of things that actuaries can do that go well beyond it, and that's what I'm looking here to do, in particular with healthcare and with data analytics. One of the things that we'd like to do is to actually connect with high school students, specifically in the Philadelphia area, that have specific math talent to get them into the career, because right now, they're not coming.
I have a gift for you.
So maybe we could hear from the panel, youth apprenticeship, where is that in your thinking? And then a little bit on pre-apprenticeship and how that connects to the K-12 system. Eric?
So for us, youth apprenticeship, we tend to address it with pre-apprenticeship. We really define pre-apprenticeship or registered pre-apprenticeship as preparing someone for the job they don't have, right? So that could be someone that's in school youth, out of school youth, or the adult population. Anyone who is trying to get entry-level access to a position could benefit from pre-apprenticeship. We're talking about high school juniors and seniors through pre-apprenticeship getting involved, but really the awareness needs to happen at the middle school level and maybe even sooner. So having that real contact with employers coming in, field trips, just awareness of what these opportunities are, getting in front of the parents as well to talk to them about these opportunities, apprenticeship opportunities. one of my other jobs, I'm a football coach, and I also have a 16-year-old and a 22-year-old, and they kind of always say things about, why am I doing this? How does this apply to me? Connecting them to pre-apprenticeship opportunities, work-based learning opportunities while they're in school gives them the why to get involved in things like this. And even if they can see that at an earlier age, they may apply themselves at a different rate than they are now. So we really need to, apprenticeship is that real connection between employers and training providers. It's a formalized connection to really encourage that communication that needs to happen both ways.
Perspectives from New Jersey?
Real quick, and this is something I've been somewhat obsessed with and haven't gotten all the answers yet. But one of the first things we did on our grants, we actually added high schools to a K-12 system to be able to apply for apprenticeship grants. Two, we figured out there's this, we all are working together on, reducing the stigma about apprenticeship. One of the ones that was sort of built in and inherent to our system in New Jersey, every school district gets a report card. Every school gets a report card, which is very important to the principals and superintendents, how they score on the report card. If kids were going into an apprenticeship program, they weren't getting any points on the report card for the school. This will be the first academic year where schools are getting positive points for apprenticeship programs. So if a kid goes to an apprenticeship program, they're getting the same points as if they went to Harvard. So that's a very big, I like that. It's a small, wonky thing, but I think it will help make a difference for us. And this is on my back, that we are the department that handles working papers for high school students in the state. And basically, it goes to our wage hour division. We write some things down, send it back. We've captured none of that data for the lifetime of this coming to our department, which I'm working to change now, because that's a great source of data to be able to work with these students to figure out where we can help them in their career. It's a great recruiting tool. And we just need to know as a department who are the kids that are working, because those are the ones that should be going right into an apprenticeship program or something else, and just help us get a better data about what we're dealing with at the high school level.
Yeah, sure.
Well, just to add to what the commissioner was saying, I mean, it shouldn't be either or, first of all. Get a college degree or get into an apprenticeship. And secondly, there's no reason why every high school, whether you're a Voc Tech or not, FCT or not, cannot be a pre-apprenticeship or a registered apprenticeship sponsor. Because,
Excellent.
So, and
Yeah.
it's,
Great. And Delaware, you got the last word.
Yeah, so in Delaware, there's the program for culinary. So Delaware Restaurant Association worked with the schools. So there is that pathway, and then that aligns into the registered apprenticeship program. So there's advanced placement for that. Also with Delaware Technical Community College with the operating engineer, there's college credits that go along with that. They learn from freshman year, and then, like I said, they graduate with those 6 college credits. In the VOTEX currently, there's advanced placement. So once you graduate high school, within 18 months, if you go to an apprenticeship program, you get advanced placement. So that's a year off your related instruction. You still have to do on-the-job learning, but you could do that during your co-op, during your senior year.
Well, listen, you guys have been a great audience and great questions, so thank you for that. And join me in thanking the panel for your remarks. Thank you.